Hey, and welcome to Matt and Jess TV. I am Matt Rose.
And I'm Jessica Bun Bun.
This is our Only Murders in the Building Season 5, Episode 6
Mhm.
reaction and review. So, we all knew going into this episode that, okay, the focus is very much on Lorraine, Lester's widow, and then also Sofia.
Yeah, and as we mentioned in our last review, we felt like going into this episode that they were going to be cleared in this episode. I mean, we're only in episode 6 at this point.
Yeah.
They weren't going to reveal the murders this early on, and then we were going to have like so many more episodes left where we're just going to be like do 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 do.
So, in true Only Murders fashion, what we really get throughout this episode, Flatbush, is a story that, yeah, it gives us some backstory on Oliver, and we'll get very much into that. But we also go down the traditional road of, okay, we're going to clear these suspects.
Yes.
And then we're going to focus at the end of this episode all about Bash. Now, I know there's a lot to talk about as to whether or not he killed Nikki or Lester, but can we just all take a moment to be like, this man of a very unknown age has now stooped to this level where he is catfishing Charles Hayden Savage, a washed up television star, using his own dating app technology. This is your solution?
He clearly wants to know what they know. And since they're not really able to podcast about it without mentioning them, they are in a situation, Bash and the other billionaires, where they're not able to really get information out of the trio. So here we are, they're catfishing.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot to take away from that. And of course, we've all had various suspicions as to whether or not the billionaires killed Nikki, killed Lester. Are they just accomplices? Like, we will, of course, dive into that and a whole lot more here.
Yeah.
Before we do, though, be sure to hit that subscribe button because Jess and I are here throughout Only Murders in the Building with reviews, previews, theories, 3 videos every single week for you guys. We have a great time doing this. And we are also in the midst right now of covering Gen V Season 2. And down the road here, we have Welcome to Derry coming to HBO.
And there is definitely going to be a mystery around that. It is Stephen King. It is very exciting. We cannot wait to cover it. And if you want to talk to us about Only Murders even further, we have discussion and polls and chat and everything going on over on our Patreon. So I'll leave a link for you below with that.
Thank you guys so much for your support. Like, we really appreciate that.
Okay, even with this big reveal that Bash is behind all of this. He's got the Lester robot in there. He's got all the security cameras in there. He's catfishing Charles for information about this murder, tinfoil hat.
All right.
It's still not him, and it's still not the billionaires. I think they're involved, but I don't think that they're the one that wielded the hatchet. I just or did anything to Lester. I just don't think that it's them. I think that they're billionaires and that they have paid somebody to do this for them. I think there was something going on, whatever it was, with them and Nikki, and we'll get into more theories on that coming up this week.
Yeah.
That this is where they ended up, that they just paid somebody to deal with this.
It's the most reasonable solution here because, like, so much of this season is about the extremely wealthy taking advantage of others that are in their circle, and like, how far will they be willing to go in order to obtain money, like improve their quality of life. Even somebody like Lester, who was doing this extra work at the Arconia just because he wanted to give him and his wife like a little bit of a better leg up moving into their retirement. And so all of that connecting back, like, it just makes 120% sense.
Absolutely. I mean, they're involved. It's just, how are they involved, and really, why are they involved? What is their plan here of why they needed to go down this route?
It really feels like they're desperate. And that's a really interesting place that we find them in, because I think if we're just looking at what Bash is doing here, you don't go to the level where you're catfishing another man unless you are really desperate for attention, information. You're really bored. It's just, there's not a lot of reasons that you're going to go to this length. And so obviously Bash is really worried about something, and it ties back to obviously the billionaires buying up One to Fire, at least buying some ownership interest in all of that, that they're worried that something is going to be found out about them that is going to potentially doom their bottom line, and they have to make sure that doesn't happen.
Absolutely. Just because they bought up Wonderfy and they've stopped the trio from mentioning them in the podcast doesn't mean that the trio is going to still not uncover something and find another way to expose it, right? I mean, they need to know what the trio knows. And at this point, now that the trio knows that they bought Wonderfy and they're not allowed to say anything, the trio's not going to be very open about anything.
No, they have no reason to be. And I think the billionaires also, because they're, for the most part, smart. If like Bash has figured out a way to be, I don't know, 140 and look like he's like 40 or 50 years old, it's just like they can figure out that, okay, our Only Murders trio here, they may be able to just hand something off to somebody else. Somebody else can investigate it. It's just like you can only slow them down. You really can't stop them.
Absolutely. And it makes me wonder, I already have my tinfoil hat on here, that it is the gonna end up coming into this in some sort of way. She is a massive influencer, has a huge audience. Is it possible that the trio is going to end up, now that her and Mabel have, gotten through their differences and learned that it was kind of a misunderstanding between them and they're good now? Is it going to be a situation where the trio can't talk about the billionaires, but they can?
Yeah, there's nothing stopping her. And in a lot of ways, she's even more dangerous than the trios because, I mean, let's just all think about it for a moment here. Like, I'm an avid podcast listener. Like, I listen to a lot of podcasts, but I also sit here and recognize I might be in the minority when it comes to how many people listen to a very specific niche podcast as opposed to how many people might view a post on Instagram from Thee that is sort of pointing the finger at these billionaires.
Absolutely, 100% that's true.
Yeah, and I think that is a way that they can sort of set this up, and it would justify, okay, why are we getting the character of Thee as frequently as we are this season? Like, she has irritated me. I've made that very, very clear, but at the same time, her and Mabel kind of figuring things out in this episode. I didn't hate her as much as I have the entirety of the season.
Yeah, it was good to sort of see that part of the story wrap up because I was like, okay, how long are we going to go through this season, this back and forth and trading barbs and kind of like having a problem with each other? Like, we've already gone through this for many episodes now. It was time to wrap it up, and I'm glad that they did, and I'm hoping that means then that they may be able to come in and work some magic to be able to really help, because while money is influence in New York, influence is also influence in New York.
Yeah, 100%. And I think the other thing here about Thee, I always have to pronounce her name weird because I'm afraid it's just going to sound like an article, but okay. I think it's interesting how eager Thee is to be a part of what's going on here with the murder trio, as though a hit artist doesn't have anything else to do. But this does signal to me that it's like, okay, she clearly finds some value in what she's doing, but does she think her music is, I don't know, a little bit vapid? Is she not getting completely fulfilled by all of that? And I mean, that could be a way that she wants to continue to take part in all of this because she has these regrets over what happened with Mabel, and she's like repressed it. She's channeling some of it through her ridiculous music. She's like coping in all these other ways.
Yeah, and the fact that a lot of her influence, her music, all that stuff has come together because she felt, slighted by Mabel and they're falling out or whatever. Now that that's been fixed, where does she go from here? Because it seems like a lot of her influence and Come to the Arcona, all of this has been based on what was happening with Mabel. And now that that's fixed, where does she go?
Yeah, if we're going to sort of make a metaphor here, this season of Only Murders in the Building, it reminds me of either, the old board game Risk or the PC game Age of Empires, where you sort of have your group that's willing to fight this other group, and everybody's kind of just trying to stack their forces. So the billionaires, they have each other. Like, that's a very, very powerful resource. The trio now, it seems like they're bringing in Thee. It seems like they have Detective Williams, but then then these billionaires, they may have these other dirty cops. So it's like everybody's assembling various sides, and it's still kind of unclear, okay, who's actually going to come out on top?
Okay, who stole the finger? This is where we get into the support staff again.
Yeah.
So we have already seen some of the support staff. We mentioned Jose, Miller, Ursula, of course. And now that this finger has gone missing, we had Detective Williams come in, Charles pours it out. Oh, there's just ice in there. Where'd the finger go? Somebody has broken into his apartment and stole the finger, but there was no signs of forced entry. So somebody had a key.
Okay, so there's two different things that are on my
mind. Or they're really
here.
good at picking locks where nobody notices.
Yeah, that's a very specific skill. And I mean, who knows? Anything's possible.
Anything's possible. But okay. I think somebody has a key, and I think it's somebody in the support staff. Because I'm still convinced that somebody in the support staff has either helped to cover up these murders, like taking the elevator crank. I think that they, helped put Nikki in a freezer and was holding it, that they were paid to be able to at least help cover some of this up.
Yeah, and this is where my brain gets a little bit complicated, because we did this video last week talking about Mayor Tillman, and he's somebody who is very, very near the top of my suspect board right now. And the idea, okay, could he be working with somebody like Jose, the super, somebody who would obviously have key access to pretty much the entirety of the Arconia? Like, a part of this makes sense, but then there's the other trippy part of it where you sort of sit back and it's like, okay, would Mayor Tillman really know the whereabouts of this finger? It's like, how do you connect the dots with all of that?
Absolutely. It has to be somebody who knew or knows that that finger was in the shrimp in the first place and that it somehow ended up at Charles's place. It had to be somebody that they have spoken to, that they have figured it out, or that they know that the trio might have some sort of clues somewhere, and that they actually went into all the apartments looking for any type of clues and happened to stumble across the finger.
So we're either dealing with an extreme wild goose chase here, where they are sort of running around and doing all this, or we have a collaborative effort that involves several people, whether it's, the mayor's support staff, the billionaires, maybe just one or two of them.
Well, here's the thing with the way that Bash is behaving, because he is using this app to catfish Charles to get information about the case. He is kind of on a wild goose chase. He can't get information any other way. So at this point, it does feel like if they were using the support staff in any kind of way to help cover up or do whatever, it makes sense that whoever, Bash or whoever, would hand over some money to the support staff and be like, just look through the apartments and tell me what you find.
It just feels like Bash, and like you said earlier, he has to be involved in a pretty extreme way at this point, because like an easy way to work through this heist is it's just like, okay, if you can manipulate the security footage, it doesn't even really matter how careful somebody is, because you can just make it go poof. So it's like, okay, either Bash is doing this himself or his software is really, really faulty and we have some like master hacker who's in here working behind the scenes.
Yeah, and the billionaires know about the finger, so they would probably be sending people in to be like, take a look.
Yeah, and I think at the same time, there's probably a couple of different motives going on for them when it comes to, all right, we need to make this finger disappear. And it's beyond just like, okay, getting ourselves out of the case. There's also the idea of, okay, we want to control the evidence, but maybe we want to make the trio just look really, really dumb, because they may not understand that those three and Detective Williams, they do have a long history. And Detective Williams, as we saw in this episode, she wasn't completely like, oh, no, you guys are just a bunch of dum-dums. She was like, okay, somebody got to this finger before you guys were able to give it to me.
Yeah.
So I think that all means that, all right, Detective Williams still very much on our trio's side.
Yes.
She's still going to help them, but we're backing away at square one again, where it's like, you don't really have any evidence at this point. You don't have a way to access the security footage. Like, where can you really go?
Yeah, because with them looking at the security footage, it's been very clear that at the exact moments that they needed to see something, it's been clipped out.
Yeah.
Probably by Bash, like almost 100% by Bash. I mean, he owns it.
Well, one thing I'm very glad we got complete confirmation on in this episode is the bird call, because we have been talking about this bird call for a long time. And I don't think...
Yeah, we even have a video up all about the bird call for you.
Yeah, I don't think this is necessarily like 100% confirmation that, okay, Lester, right before he was killed, was trying to use the bird call to whistle out a specific bird that would then translate into what was on his ledger and serve as a huge clue for who the murderer is. Like, we can't connect those dots entirely, but can we at least kind of just start to be like, boop, 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 boop?
Yeah, I think there's got to be some kind of connection to it because the police, who are obviously on some sort of payroll because this was an accident, sure it was an accident, they actually gave that back to his wife, so they saw it as a nothing.
Yeah, they saw it as a nothing. And, I'm sitting here being like, okay, either these police are just like really, really incompetent and they don't understand what this bird call is or what it could translate to anything.
Or they just saw the bird call and just thought that it was a nothing because they didn't look in the ledger. They didn't see all this other stuff, all the bird names. They didn't make any connection to it because they just don't know who Lester is. And they just think that it's, a nothing.
Yeah, the one thing we can take away from this season so far is that other than Detective Williams, who is a treasure and needs to be protected at all costs, we are not dealing with New York's best and brightest so far this season.
Okay, let's talk about Loretta and her apartment going up in flames.
Yeah.
I was actually surprised that she, throughout this season, that she still has her own apartment. Like, these two are married and are moving forward together. And, they weren't completely living together, right? But I thought that they were already kind of on the move to something like that. It was a bit surprising at the beginning of the season where it was like, they're not there yet. I know she's off working and Oliver still has his place. And, she's explained, this was her apartment, all her stuff, and that it was hard to let go of it. And I understand all that, but you guys are also married now. So it felt like something that had to happen to force them to both be like, okay, it's time. Your apartment is gone. It's time for me to just take this offer and move out so that we can build something together.
I think the end of this is really sweet, but I do have a lot of questions about the beginning of it because everything you're saying makes sense. And beyond all that, I wonder, did we even need to have Loretta's place catch on fire in the first place? Like, you could have done a situation where, kind of like you're saying, maybe they had realized, okay, we don't need two places. And it would have been a very funny setup if Loretta had just moved all of her stuff to Oliver's place and he's just in there like ducking and weaving through just like hoarder's amount of material because you've got two people in a small apartment and all of their stuff. And we could have just had a situation where Oliver came to this realization. It's like, okay, we need to find something we identify with us, and this is just me and where things stand right now. Like, it's not tenable that we're gonna be in this place together.
No, and at first I was really curious if it really was just her tea kettle caught on fire, because when they were kind of pulling out from the journal and everything else, her window was broken, and I was like, why is her window broken? Is that the flames like shot it out, or like what? Why is this window broken? I had thought somebody had broken in and like set it on fire, but then I was kind of like, why would they?
Okay, I'm really glad you said something like that because I had the same exact thoughts.
Okay,
watching.
good. Yeah, I saw that broken window and I was like, is this the break-in?
Okay, I have an idea about this, and this may not be logistically possible, so bear with me. All right, what if the tea kettle's on, the tea kettle's brewing, and it's just going and going and going, and then like the top of the tea kettle like pops off and breaks the window, and then it's just like everything else starts to go, to hell in a handbasket. The place catches on fire.
Yeah, and it could. I think it was a very weird thing to have, especially for like a murder mystery show, that you're gonna have this broken window. And it could just been the flames, it could be the tea kettle, it could be whatever, but because there was like a break-in at Charles's place, now I'm like, okay, why is this window broken? It just, if it has nothing to do with anything, then maybe they didn't need to do that.
Yeah, all I know is that if a crock pot can destroy the Pearson family forever, a tea kettle, it could do the same, but I do think it was a little bit of a weird choice. It wasn't really needed. Like, I feel like a lot of the Oliver story, and, it was sweet, it was tender, but it also did feel like, all right, we know that Martin Short, out of our three leads, he's the one who seems to get the most consistent awards buzz.
Yes.
We want him to really have a showcase, so maybe he can get this Emmy coming up. So this 100%, this is going to be the episode that Marty submits once we get the Emmy season, because like he had a ton of material and he was really, really good in it.
Very good, very heartfelt. It was a very touching story about, his past, his foster family, and really wanting to be into the arts and really wanting to have, be on stage. And that this has been since, he's very, very young to all the way to where he is now. Plus, the story bringing him and Loretta together in a way that's like, okay, it's, what it's time for me to let go of some of my past, to let go of this apartment I've been holding on to. We'll get this money. This money can be for us to build something together. Absolutely, this is for his Emmy.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I don't want to be a complete hater, but at the same time, I just sort of feel like this is a 10-episode show. The episodes are usually like 35 minutes. We have still all of these suspects, all the
Yes.
support staff you mentioned earlier, and it's just this storyline, sweet as it was, it also took like 10 or 15 minutes of this episode, and I do sort of sit back and wonder, how much did it really further everything along?
It didn't. We have 4 episodes left and like a million suspects.
Yeah, and that's a problem. And yeah, I understand that at a certain point we got to, all right, Loretta's undercover. She's using her accent from her role. And I mean, that part was endearing. And eventually this did sort of set up, okay, we're going to absolve the likes of Sophia
Yeah.
and Lorraine, but it took a while to get there.
Yeah, there's a couple of moments this season that I have felt could have been packed in a bit better. Like,
Yeah.
we had the whole Lester episode of him in the past and sort of, how he met his wife and all of that. And while it was also a good episode and sweet and cool to see, it also didn't further the story along as much as it should have. And the same thing happened here with Oliver's story.
Yeah.
And normally, I think if they had done something like this, like season 2 or 3 or something like that, I would have been like, we're wasting a bunch of time. And
Yeah.
while it's not moving the story forward, it's nice for me to have this in here because we are in season 5 now.
Hmm.
It can't just be the same formula over and over again, even though there is still some of the same formula going on where, oh, it's the wives. Of course, it's not the wives. Now it's like, oh, it's going to be Bash. No, it's not going to be Bash. Like, we're going to continue on with that. But it's nice to have a little bit of something different.
Yeah, I hope that the longer this show lasts, because we don't know how long it's going to ultimately go for,
No.
that they do sort of listen to, okay, here are a couple of criticisms for what
Yes.
is this ridiculously fun, entertaining show. And even this season, like, at this point in my heart, I'm ruling out Lorraine and I'm ruling out Sophia. But if
Yeah.
they are able to completely rope-a-dope us here and like go back to someone they've previously ruled out or find a way to twist it and make us really surprised, like I would really welcome that, because right now I do sort of sit back and I feel like, all right, because we're used to this show's formula, because of its success,
Mhm.
we kind of know a lot of the beats as to how this investigation is going to end up going.
Yeah, episode 7 or episode 8, we're going to get like a focused episode on the person who will end up being the killer. And that's how it typically has gone. So, we'll buckle up for that. But getting back to Oliver's apartment, how many people think that he's actually going to get rid of this apartment? And how many people think that he's going to actually have his wife move in with him? I think Loretta is going to move in with him.
I'm going to say,
I don't think he's moving out.
I think I'm going to say yes too. I took a minute after watching this to kind of sit back and think about it, because it did seem like he was set on, okay, I need to try to find some sort of space for himself. But at the same time, he also talked a lot about how he still wants to stay in this particular part of Manhattan. It
Yeah.
wasn't like, oh, I want to move back to Brooklyn. And I'm not a New Yorker. I'm somebody who's been there like a couple of times. But even just as a casual person aware of New York, real estate in Manhattan is not exactly cheap. And I'm sitting here and being like, even if you got a good bit of money for that place in the Arconia, are you really going to be able to go somewhere else and actually find a better deal?
Yeah, and I mean, does anyone want to go into the next season where one of the trio doesn't live in the building anymore? Like, it's just getting too like pulled apart. I really don't like that. It was one of the things that I didn't like about a few seasons back, where they had the trio like in all these different positions the season with the play where they really weren't together anymore.
Yeah.
And the idea that Oliver's not going to be in the building, I'm not here for it. I don't like it.
No, and I gotta believe the writers know this too, because even if you have this thing in your head where you're just like, okay, we'll all still find a way to make it work. We'll all still be friends, even if we're not in the same building. Like I'll do
No,
a
thank you.
yeah, I'll do a quick story time on all this. Like I had some friends who I was dorm mates with in college. We all stayed at the same dorm, and then my junior year of college, they were like, "Oh, we're just gonna get an apartment that's just outside the dorm. We'll still see each other all the time." I went to that apartment twice my entire junior year. Like distance and a new surrounding, it changes things radically, and this is not change we should really want here.
No, I don't want it. And I don't think we're going to get it. I honestly think it's just going to turn around in another way. Okay, so here's the other thing is that this season is about money. We know that the trio has been brought on to Wonderfy and all of that. And, they're being silenced on and on and on. They've had the movie, now they have the podcast. It feels like Oliver is looking at this money that he's like, this could be a nest egg for us. This could be something that we could do something with, because he doesn't have a lot of money coming in at the moment. But what if this is the case that really blows them up so that he has money coming in and he can keep the apartment and him and Loretta can live there?
That's what I want. That's the most wholesome, sweet way to end all of this, where it's like, okay, they don't have to leave. They have a happily ever after. They get to stay in the building. Like everyone wins. But staying in the building here, let's just have a brief discussion about the Lester robot, who has magically returned to the Arconia after a very quick demise. I think the big question that we all have to wonder about all this, and I'm surprised it hasn't really been brought up by anyone in the building. How quickly was this turned around? I know Howard had said another one had already been ordered, but for those of you who have lived in apartment buildings, sometimes it takes like a week for them to come in and check your air conditioner. Like, I would be really, really suspicious of like, man, this robot, it's just like, if I could snap my fingers, I would be doing that right now.
Yeah, I mean, clearly Bash wants eyes everywhere that he can have in there, but as a tenant, yeah. I'd be really surprised that it's been replaced this quickly. Like, this is not a cheap robot.
No, I think this episode, it had some clues, but it also just had some things that I think were very much meant to keep in mind. Obviously, this Lester robot, we have to remember that. We have to think a lot about the finger. But I think beyond all that, we just really need to think about every single person who even has just a tiny smidgen of information about where the finger was, who was around the night of Lester and Nikki's death, because I think the timeline is going to be really important moving into the end of this season. But that is where we are with Only Murders in the Building, Season 5, Episode 6. So what did you guys think about this episode? Who do you think is the top suspect right now? Be sure to let us know in the comments and hit that subscribe button. And you can also support us further by joining our Patreon. That link is in the description. We are covering there exclusively in video form Slow Horses, a show we have a great time with. Thank you so, so much. We'll see you here next time.